Hello, everyone, and welcome to Vidyard's Behind the Scenes Episode 1. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you are here for the inaugural episode of our new Behind the Scenes series, where we will be speaking with real-world video marketers, video sellers, Vidyard users to learn how it is that they are crushing it with the use of video in their marketing, sales, and even their internal communications programs. I'm your host for this first episode. My name is Tyler Lessard. I'm VP Marketing here at Vidyard and our Chief Video Strategist. And I have the opportunity to work with so many different video users out there to learn their stories, to find out what's working, and to hopefully bring many of those to you throughout this and other series. And for our first episode, ladies and gentlemen, whether you are a Vidyard user or not, whether you're in marketing, in sales, internal communications, business leadership, you know what? It doesn't matter, because you are going to get something awesome out of this. Because our first guest was an easy selection. It is the organization who won the 2020 Video Mastery Award as part of Vidyard's Video and Business Awards because of how successfully they have rolled out video across their business for use as a new way to connect with clients, to educate their market, and even to communicate internally. So folks, without further ado, actually, before I introduce him, one important housekeeping item. We're live here, unless you're watching on demand afterwards, but for those of you on live, please drop us a note in LinkedIn, drop us a note in YouTube, add a comment in if you have any questions, if you have any ideas, if you want to thumbs up or applaud some of the amazing things our guests are going to say, please join in the conversation online and ask your questions, and we'll try to bring them into the conversation. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our guest for our first episode of Behind the Scenes, the one, the only, Paul Mortimer, Head of Growth from Digital 22. Paul, welcome to the show.
Hi, Tyler. How are you doing? I didn't know you were actually going to say that. I thought you were joking. The one and only. Yeah, don't put.
Well, Paul, you know, the team
at
Digital...
more Paul Mortimers.
But you know what, Paul? You are the Paul Mortimer from Digital 22, the only Paul Mortimer who can say they are the Video Mastery Award winner from 2020 for all the great things you guys have done with video. So I would love for you to just quickly introduce yourself to our audience and let them know a little bit about Digital 22.
Yeah, cool. So we're based in the UK, just about 45 minutes outside of Manchester. We're a HubSpot agency primarily, or historically, who has started life back in the day about 8 years ago as an SEO agency, and then got into inbound very quickly. And I've been using video for years as part of marketing, and became a Vidyard partner about, I think, 3-4 years ago nearly. And that we do a video first approach when we started using video across all aspects of the business, not just marketing. And then that's where we've been on our Vidyard journey since then. So that was a big part of our work with Vidyard last year, and I guess why you've invited us to join you today. So yeah, video's central. It started with our marketing. Now we use it everywhere in Digital 22.
Yeah, it's been really interesting seeing the evolution of video within your organization. I know I've worked with different folks over the years, and how it's become a part both of how you run and operate your own business. And then, of course, as a partner, you're also teaching clients and your own customers how to embrace video in their own programs. Let me just quickly ask you, in your own role as the head of growth, what does that look like at Digital 22? What are your areas of responsibility, and how do you think about success in your role as head of growth?
So, like I mentioned, we have a well-established HubSpot agency, marketing agency side of the business. We grew the video marketing aspect as part of the content team, and we've really gone even harder on video and Vidyard services. And my role is to sort of lead that with Ricky and Tanya, who I work with in our team that's growing the Vidyard and video first approach here at Digital 22, but with our clients. So the well-established SEO teams, content teams, and all the great marketing stuff. And we're just going even further on into video and Vidyard with our clients. So that's the bit I work on.
Fantastic. So let's start by diving into the sales side of your business. So many folks out there are now using video and, of course, tools like Vidyard as part of their sales process for everything from outbound prospecting, using video messages, to following up with inbound leads, to showing rather than just telling throughout the sales cycle. I would just love for you to start by talking a bit about how your team on the sales side got started with using video and how that's evolved over the last couple of years.
Yeah, sure. Like I said, marketing was always doing video, but sales team or sales purposes, I think, was the first place where we started doing one-to-one video and video messaging direct to people rather than to wider audience or to YouTube or whatever. Right. So that one-to-one video in the sales process starts with following up from a contact, and it started from following up a physical contact, a meeting. So you'd get in touch and go and see somebody, and you'd get in touch with them via video before and after. And then where that's evolved especially over last year, was then building that into before you've actually physically met somebody, because obviously we couldn't for most of last year. But then that quickly slotted in, working with you guys as a way of building that rapport before you get a chance to meet people. And I guess last year's just moved that further and further up that sales journey and that sales conversation. So whereas it started like, great to meet you yesterday, I thought I'd record you a video, it was back when it still felt like it does to a lot of people I speak to now, as though video is like a big thing. And for a while we still treated it that way, but now it's so like easy with how quick it uploads onto Vidyard and things like that, that you can just quickly do a 1-minute video and it doesn't take any time out of your day at all. And it built from when we'd go and do a pitch and follow it up to like, can't wait to see you, we're on our way, we're in the car, to now it's like, I tried to ring you, I couldn't get hold of you, I followed up with this video. And that's like our first sales contact with them. And then we'll get in touch at the different places.
Yeah, that's terrific.
Right until they sign, and then other people in the team then get in touch with video as well.
Yeah, we've been seeing more and more
sellers.
Oh, that's okay. But it's interesting because we've started to see this mentality with more and more sales teams, where the idea of using video consistently throughout their communication cycle with prospects or customers has become this new way to build a relationship, to get face time with your prospects, to allow them to get to know you a little bit more personally, and even to we've sort of coining this term of like walking the digital halls by making sure these videos can sort of work their way around to different contacts and companies, so different people can actually see you and hear you, which I think is a really interesting idea. I wanted to just ask you a follow-up question on, can you think of any specific videos, either an individual video or the kind of video that your team has been using that has really stood out as an example of like something that really transformed a deal, that it's like, oh my gosh, without that video, we wouldn't be here today? Or are there any examples of that you can think of?
Most of them, to be honest. Yeah. one that comes to mind is one that was we worked with a university, and I was there filming something else with them, a marketing project, and their director of marketing, June, mentioned that she remembers Caroline getting in touch, and it wasn't just the video; it was the way the message was put across and the speed that it came through, and it was a real differentiator of like, not only have you done the right sales things of getting back in touch in the right space of time and in the right format and stuff like that, but you've also added video, but then also your personality was there in the video, or Caroline's personality was, or to use June's word, your lovely sales representative at the time, Caroline. So yeah, that connection was really there. It was clear that she'd bought into Kaz and Digital 22, and it was not just good timing and fast, but it was delivered more authentically thanks to the video.
Yeah, it's interesting because it creates that authenticity. It creates that more personal connection. We've also found, a really sort of hidden secret of videos that also tends to make you more memorable with your prospects and customers. And as you said, even in that case where it was like, oh, that wonderful person on your team, which you don't typically get when all you've been sending is text-based emails, right? You can, but it's a lot harder to get that kind of memorability and personal connection.
Yeah, we had a chat about that, about something else, but it was just the use of video again. It wasn't a sales context, but just a text-based interaction with somebody joining a community or something like that. That's what the context was.
Right.
Yeah, 1 in a million times you'll just hit it off on chat with somebody, but a video just brings those odds massively more in your favor, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's, it is the new face to ourselves. And some of this is even building our personal brands, right? Like we'll talk about marketing in a moment, but I think for a lot of sellers, by putting themselves out there, and I'm not talking about, online one-to-many, I'm building up my global brand profile, but as individual sellers, as we are trying to connect with these customers, it is a big difference. They pay attention to how we communicate, to what messages we deliver, and all these little points build up your own personal brand. And I think what's actually really interesting is a lot of people, at least still today, feel like if you're willing to put in the effort to make me a video, it shows that sort of higher level of investment and higher expectation of value and how they work with you. And there's this, wonderful thing called the law of reciprocity, where, if somebody puts a huge effort into something, we feel compelled as humans to sort of match their level of output. And I hear that as well time and time again of like people responding and saying, oh, wow, thank you so much for making me that video. It clearly explained this, or it was great to meet you. And yeah, I'd be happy to follow up, which is, I think, a really interesting other side.
It's interesting that, and I've spoken with some of your colleagues and people I speak to, our customers, about this example that I saw firsthand with that, of how, and we talk about it internally a lot. You and I and our colleagues, we're very used to this, and video being almost not throwaway is not the right word, but so effortless that I think I've been reaching out to some people to organize an event tomorrow. I've probably sent 30 videos today already. Whereas I spent a bit of time in the summer working inside an office of a construction company. It was some office space. And like getting on a Teams video call was just a huge thing for them.
Right.
And these are very clever, very successful people, but video is still a massive novelty. So like, we really need to ride that wave right now. If you want to use it for marketing messaging or sales messaging, especially, don't underestimate how, because we work in marketing and because we know about Vidyard, don't underestimate the people who don't understand how easy it is to do this.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it's a huge part of it standing out. And the good news is, for most of you out there listening, your competitors are not doing this, right? Their sales reps are not sending videos to the same people. They're not getting these every day, or frankly, ever in most cases. So it becomes a really important way to stand out. Now, I wanted to follow up on something you alluded to there, which is that, you've gotten to the point where you're creating lots of videos and it's become very easy. And I'm sure for many of your sales team, many of them have gotten to that point. A lot of other Vidyard customers, find it's a little bit hit and miss with different sales reps. Some folks gravitate to it and it just becomes natural, and others struggle to make video a consistent part of their process. Is there anything you've learned, or you've sort of learned at the broader scale at Digital 22 about how to create adoption, how to get people comfortable, confident in how to use video and being great on camera? Anything you've learned?
The confidence part of that and encouraging people, we offered incentives, basically internal incentives, based on the team who was back when Vidyard had what was it called? Go video seats.
Yeah.
Where you could, it used to be a case where you could only have so many people who could send one-to-one messages. I think the platform does it so readily now. But anyway, this was years ago. We had an incentive for the people who were going to get those seats to get a reward for using it and doing so many videos. And that was a way of overcoming that last hurdle that people had. They understood the benefits. They could see that it had worked for these people in the business. They'd seen all the stats and all that kind of thing. But you don't really see how simple it is and how beneficial it is to you until you start doing it. So that prize was there to let them get into that habit and encourage them to do it, because we knew if you just start doing it and keep doing it and build that habit, I can't remember. There's loads of stats in there about building habits, but if you can get to 21 videos, you'll carry on doing it, or whatever the number is. I don't have the exact number, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's something I've heard from a lot of people. A lot of it does come down to that repetition, that practice, and many others have also coached their reps on. Hey, you can be sending videos internally. To get those reps in. It doesn't always have to be an external facing video. So lots of great things there. Now, Paul, let's switch over to the marketing side of the conversation, because your team is also using video extensively throughout your marketing programs. So would you mind just sharing a little bit about your approach there and how your team uses video? Is it for promotion and thought leadership? Is it on your website and your campaigns? Where do you tend to focus your efforts with video on the marketing side?
We end up doing a lot of all of that because we've got clients all at different stages of their priorities, and their content ecosystem is next to nothing or like years worth. So it's always on a case-by-case basis on what the strategy is for that client. But the general rule of thumb of how we approach video light in that sense is about converting people first. Having an impact on an audience you've already got is a lot more cost and time effective than trying to increase your brand and go viral or bring in this massive audience. If your website's already getting thousands of people visiting it every month, imagine if you could double your conversion rate on some of your key pages. And the beauty of why we advise, don't know what the word I'm trying to say is, advise doing that really is sort of cost effective,
right?
Time efficient, more impactful. So start there, and then you can go down into more exciting cases, which is what a lot of client CEOs or client owners or boards still want to do. They all want to do this like landmark video that's going to change the world when there's easier and smarter plays available.
Yeah, we're seeing a very similar pattern with a lot of businesses that we work with, particularly B2B companies that are now focusing on the use of video as an educational content medium as part of their content, their inbound programs, demonstrations of their products and solutions, customer stories. Sort of, there's this sort of broad range of how it's being used, and a lot of that content is actually now being produced in-house. Some of it, absolutely, there's still production agency partners at play. I'm curious how your team is approaching it at Digital 22. Are you creating that kind of content in-house? Are you working externally, or do you have a hybrid mode?
Shoots obviously got reined in a lot last year. We had, when the big webinar explosion happened in the start of summer, we spent a good solid few months of just doing animation and bookending webinars.
Right.
So that's a good tool. It's interesting what you say. We've actually got, I'm thinking of the projects we've got on now, sorry. We've got people, who are recording their own things.
Yep.
And then we're doing the polishing. And then we're just getting more into a rhythm now where we're still going back onto location and getting shoots and doing, proper pro setup stuff. But it's a good point that We do both again. I'd say it's about 50-50. There's a lot of webinars, there's a lot of training, there's a lot of screen recording demos that it's quicker to just then go and get a professional to just go and edit it for you. And it's also more time cost efficient again overall because you've done the middle bit yourself.
Right.
But yeah, I'm really pleased to hear we finally getting signs of being able to get back into people's offices and things like that. And what was a big exciting thing for me the second half of last year was when you could see on TV like shoots happening again, and you could learn how to do it all safely.
Yeah.
But now we get the learnings of actually that demo doesn't have to be recorded by us. You can do that and send it us. So video's just grown even faster in a way thanks to last year.
Yeah, it was interesting to see that. It was almost, I'd say an interesting outcome from 2020 in that there was this almost like democratization of what video meant to people because we were all in this same situation. We were all looking at, webcams with people who don't
even on the news.
Yeah,
the news was done like this. Me and you were presenting BBC News from our homes for a bit. That like completely normalized just recording yourself on camera. And in a good way, and I hope you get what I mean here, it's lowered the expectation bar of what a video needs to be, which for us as video producers, that frees us up so much because, yeah, if this is going on a web page that they've already seen the polished videos,
right?
You don't need to spend thousands on this video. Let's do a bunch of them for that price.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It is super interesting to see, and we had a great conversation with a couple of folks at our last Fast Forward virtual event, talking about in the year ahead, or say like right now, if you were starting to expand or build out your video program, and you had, let's say, $10,000 to spend on gear, 2 years ago you would have said, oh, I spend $8,000 on that on a brilliant camera and this, and then I deck out a studio. And now they would say, well, I'd buy a dozen different kits of a microphone, a decent camera, and I'd send them out to my executives, to some of our advocates, and I would, get some better lighting and microphones. But we're going to shoot with, in some cases, our iPhones. In some cases, we have decent enough digital cameras. And that mentality has totally shifted, even with professional producers, to your point, where it's, people's expectations actually have shifted, and it frees us up to do many more things, which I think is super interesting.
I think what's interesting as well with that is the other part that's changing that expectation is as Gen Z comes into the workforce and people who have grown up with smartphones, they won't bat an eyelid at getting a DIY video off your webcam as a sales or a marketing person in the right context.
Right.
There's times where that is completely acceptable. And is it worth spending an extra bit of time jumping in to go and polish it? Probably not. You can pick a different battle. So it's fun. It's fun for me as a video maker to see, like you say, there's still a place for the big polished video, and there's a place for a more rough and ready video. And it's getting to work on loads of different stuff as well. That's just good fun for me.
Yeah, it is. And we feel it here at Vidyard as well. I remember, when we started making videos for our TikTok channel, which at some point I was like, it's not going to happen. And then we tested it out and we said, you know what, there's an opportunity here. And, some of that content actually it's very liberating. Sometimes it could actually be really fun, really interesting to learn a new space like that and starting to create different styles of content, right?
And Snapchat probably the first one I can think of that set that tone, but TikTok especially. But you see that bleeding out into Instagram feeds, Instagram stories. You see it then coming into a work setting that I'm finding really interesting because everyone's got their phone and does a little thing, does a little quick video, or watches people doing that, and it's normalized it. So that's where one-to-one video messaging has just gone even further to the fore. And in a marketing context, is good fun to do as well because if it works for sales when I'm having that one-to-one conversation and I'm nurturing you towards letting me pitch to you and all that kind of thing. But the same principle applies in you've watched an exciting case study or you've seen a nice animated video on our social, you've come and looked at our website, and now you're getting emails off me that's helping me out. They can have the same tactic as your sales team uses. It can be your marketing manager sending you just a little hello, here's our new ebook.
Yeah.
Like, it's good fun. It's just more video.
I love that. And you're right. Like every second of that is them getting a chance to interact with real people from your company. And like those examples, and somebody downloads an ebook from your website and they get an autoresponder, right? What does that email tend to look like? In most cases, it's the usual stuff, right? But what if that was actually, somebody from your team? And what if it was the person who wrote it, right? And it was, thanks so much for writing that. I poured my blood, sweat, and tears into that. I absolutely am so proud of it. I'm actually the one who wrote it. I hope you enjoy it. And I would love to hear what you think, right? Like even something like that creates this new level of transparency and engagement. And honestly, I think so much of this is the new way of building that, almost like building that brand as an organization and creating that online personality. It's so interesting.
It's all relationships, isn't it? That's what it's building, that relationship with you as a company, thanks to the people, because that's all it comes down to, isn't it? Why they'd be annoyed if you marketed to them for months,
right?
You then work with them and then they find out, I don't like the vibe of these guys.
Yep.
So let them qualify you out sooner if they're not the right fit for you.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. And I'm going to drop a tweetable quote on you here, Paul, and the rest of the audience. When it comes to using video today, it's about connection, not perfection, right? And that sort of leans back to that. This is your opportunity to create all these connection points. Now, Paul, we're going to wrap up here in a couple of minutes. We want to get done by the half hour, but I did want to ask you one more question about your use of analytics and data, because your team, of course, has been using the technology behind the scenes with a platform like Vidyard. I would love to hear how you've approached using the data behind the scenes for your videos, for your viewers, to generate insights that are actually meaningful back to your business.
Yeah, so in our team, I think it's quickly explain like the way we work as a business. We have the marketing strategist who comes up with the strategy for that client, and then all the specialist departments who go expert in on that bit, that item of delivery and content or video or SEO or whatever it is. So in video, what we use the analytics from in Vidyard, of ensuring that the Vidyard video is embedded in the places it needs to be. And we look at play rate, because then that's showing us that we've got the right title and thumbnail and is enticing enough, and the content around it, the written content, is doing its job. Yep. Attention span, so we know the quality of the production of the video is, and the format is doing its job. And then the call to action click, whatever that is in the right context, is tracked as a success. And people always tend to ask about views when they're looking and start with views. And we look at that on an individual client-to-client basis. Sort of like one client can get 20,000 views off a video that's terrible and doesn't perform on those other metrics I just mentioned, right. And one client can get 20, and the 20 is more successful than the 20,000. So the views are all isolated in context. What we look at as a team is play rate, attention span, and whether someone takes action at the end.
I love it. I've started thinking about that as the 3 R's of video metrics. It's reach, resonance, and ROI. And that reach part is, it's great to get. Is the promotional elements working? Are the thumbnail images working? Are you getting the clicks onto it? The resonance is that engagement. Is it actually resonating with people? Are they staying tuned? And then the ROI could take the form of the calls to action, driving. It could be, are we reporting back on pipeline influenced, or what is the end goal of that video to drive an action? And so I think it's an interesting framework to be mindful of in your own videos. And I'm super happy to hear you guys are using a very similar framework through different verbiage.
Yeah, and that's the same thing we spend our time saying to clients as well. And it gets there, and people have got their head around that now. Like, one video isn't going to change the world. This one video is going to help people sign up for that event. Right. So that's the call to action, and that's your ROI on this video.
Yep. Yeah, starting to think about your videos as your messages, as your pieces of content, and not as some massive brand campaign that, again, those are fine. But there is this opportunity that, frankly, anytime you're trying to communicate a message on a digital channel, it doesn't always have to be through a video, but there's an opportunity there to use it as a way to communicate that and to try to drive that next step. And I think that's where we are today. So Paul, we're going to wrap things up with one final question here, which is, what one piece of advice would you offer to folks who are starting to get on this journey and say, we want to start doing more with video, but we're not sure where to go next? Is there any advice you have for them to get over that hurdle and to get going?
To get over the hurdle, just do it and keep doing it, and it'll feel normal. You'll if you get over it and do it, you'll get over it and won't care about being on camera. And if it's a money or strategy or budget kind of thing, you're behind the curve, way behind the curve if you're not doing it. So consider it in that context, because when it comes to video as a wider strategy, it's entry level now. So don't miss out.
I love it. And I think part of that is just starting simple, right? It doesn't have to be, that'd be a $50,000 Super Bowl commercial.
No,
it can, great place to start is that, sort of basic thought leadership and things you can do in-house. So fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Paul. We are at time here, but this has been a tremendous kickoff to our behind the scenes series. Congratulations again on Video Masters at Digital 22. And thank you so much for sharing your insights and ideas with the rest of our community, Paul.
No, it's been a pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, everyone. Good luck.